Good evening, Eddie O'Neill. How are you doing?
Good evening to you, sir.
How are you doing? You all right? How are you enjoying?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Do you keep yourself active in this interesting time?
Yeah, well, you've got no choice, have you? You have to keep fit, and
Hmm.
so Thursday is run up a big hill day. So if I fall asleep halfway through this, it's not you that's boring me to death. So don't worry.
So am I right in saying, are you a runner now? You're a running coach as well?
Well,
Or tell me.
I was a running coach
Right,
in the 80s and 90s,
right.
and a badminton coach at the same time.
We.
And then when I moved here, I got absolutely immersed and submerged in badminton. And when I left that, and 5 years ago, I gave myself a year or so to recover. And then I get involved in the local running club, which I'd been a member of in the 90s anyway.
Yeah.
And I got sort of hunted down by a group of people who were performance runners, and they were looking for a coach to try and motivate them, shout at them or whatever, and I'm brilliant at that. So I was a bit reluctant, to be honest, but I got sucked into it, and I've been doing that now. I got myself a running qualification, and so I've been doing that now for 2.5 years.
Have you always been a runner, Eddie?
I haven't. No, I started when I got into badminton. I took to it straight away, but in the first year that I played it, it was quite clear that I had no fitness. So I bought a bike and I started biking up and down where we were in the Lake District to try and get reasonably fit, because I fell in love with the game and I wanted to get better at it. So I did that, but no running. But when I moved from the Lake District back to Glasgow again. Then there was an opportunity. I thought maybe I'll do some running, and so I started doing lots of little bits of running for exactly the same reason. I really wanted to. I didn't want anybody to beat me because I was fat and lazy. So I thought,
Did you
if
struggle
I'm
with
going to
weight?
lose,
Sorry, Eddie, did you struggle with weight? Was the weight a thing?
not really. I just wasn't fit.
Right.
I wasn't fat, but I wasn't fit, and I kind of developed an appetite for playing singles.
Did you?
And I played when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing, but I used to play people and they would run me around all over the place, and I used to get in pain and think, well, this is murder. So I thought, yeah, I need to do something about that. So
What age were you when you started that, Eddie?
27.
Really? That's quite late then.
27.
Well, that's when you started badminton at 27.
Yeah, 27.
Wow, that's quite late. Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's impossibly late, to be honest, but it was, yeah, and it was absolute fate that I got involved in the first place, because, as I said, we lived in the Lake District and we'd been married a year, and then we thought, we'll go and integrate ourselves into the community. And my wife had played badminton at school, and I'd never heard of it. So we agreed then that she would go down to the local school who were having an open night and join the badminton club. And I decided I would go and learn how to swim, because I couldn't swim. So off we went. So she went down, it was in a school. So she went down one corridor and I went down another corridor. And I got to the swimming thing and they told me it was full up. So I sort of backheeled it out to the reception area to wait for her. And she came out, but she had this guy with her who was in the badminton club. Tom Ferguson, his name was. So I told her, I said, bloody Pat, the thing's full. And Tom Ferguson said to me, well, come and join the badminton club. So I thought, all right then. So I traipsed down there, this corridor down to this badminton club, into this one court hall. And they gave me a racket, and that was the start of an absolute love affair. I couldn't get enough of it then.
Really? Where was
as you
where was
do.
sorry? Can you tell me where it was in the Lake District, Eddie, and why when you're in Glasgow, how did you end up in the Lake District? Yeah.
Well,
Where are you
my
from
job was in
originally as well? Where are you from originally, Eddie?
I'm from Glasgow.
Right, Central Glasgow or
Yeah, more or less. Well, no, the south side.
right? Okay.
So I was in civil engineering, and I got
In
moved
Glasgow.
around.
All right.
Well, that's where I was, got educated.
I see.
But then I got moved. I got involved in civil engineering, which was roads and motorway construction, basically. And eventually, I got moved to the Lake District to work on construction of the A66.
All right.
So that's how we ended up there, and we were there for 3.5 years. And during that time, we joined this badminton club, and I discovered badminton.
Where does the 66 go, Eddie?
It goes from
Is that the one
the
that goes
M6,
Penrith to the Scotch Corner?
goes to Penrith, yeah. It go no, not Scotch Corner. No, it goes from Penrith right away through Keswick, right over towards Cockermouth. And,
Appleby and all that.
yeah, yeah. So that's where we started playing. And by the time we left there, I then got moved back to Glasgow, to East Kilbride.
Right.
Well, I lived in East Kilbride, and so we obviously wanted to find a club because we were in love with badminton by this time.
Was your wife the same?
Yeah. I mean, she played before, so she loved it anyway.
Right.
And she was a really, really good mixed doubles player, so she fitted in. She got into teams in about 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hacked and slapped away for about a while, and until I could make some sense of it. But by the time we got to East Kilbride, we were both fairly decent, so we got quite good quickly. So I got to East Kilbride, joined a club there.
Who do you remember from those days, Eddie? Who do you remember from the East Kilbride days? That when you went, is there people that you still know that go there? Is there anybody that you still know?
No, we still keep in touch with some old friends. Not many, but I mean, some of those people became umpires and what have you. And then when I got involved with the Welsh team and we came up to Scotland, I used to see them. They'd be umpiring or doing line judging or something. So you'd see some of your old pals from the
like who? Any names you can think of?
Yeah, Roy and Helen Marriott were good friends of ours, and in that club.
Aye.
And we used to come across them quite regularly, and it was when I was a national coach.
Aye.
And of course, they could hardly believe that that I'd reached where I had reached.
It's amazing.
But it was lovely to see them.
And you'd only started playing at 27. So what age were you?
Well, that started in East Kilbride. I can't remember. The club must have decided they wanted some coaches, so they paid for me and this other guy to go to Inverclyde to do our coaching badge. And I think this is where fate comes in again, because I went to Inverclyde to do my club coach award, and when we'd done it, one of the guys who was one of the examiners and instructors, a really legendary Scottish badminton figure, Bill O'Neill, sadly passed away now. He asked me if I could give him a lift home to East Kilbride, so I said, "Aye, sure." So on the way home in the car, he said to me, and he owned a sports shop. He said to me, I'm the resident coach in a sports centre in East Kilbride. He said, but I'm going to jack it in. He said, so, do you want to get started in coaching? He said, I think you could be a decent coach, so
really,
you're welcome to have that. He said, I tell you, what happens is you do adult beginner courses. He said, but there's a group of kids, juniors, and they're all kind of county standard, and you'll inherit them.
Right.
He said the good kids, there's about 16 of them. He said one or two of them are almost junior international level. So he said, if that interests you. So I thought, oh, aye, fine. So I got this gig at the John Wright Sports Centre in East Kilbride. So I did these 16-week adult beginner courses, and I inherited this group of kids. And so I started.
Of what age kind of were they then? Like
they were sort of teenagers, 14, 15, 12, 13, 14, 15. So they'd been used to, Bill had brought them along and nourished them and what have you, but he wanted to go and do something else. And I think, to be honest with you, he saw in me that that I had potential. So that's why I think he asked for the lift home. So that you could have that. So he was fishing. So he could have that conversation, because he obviously didn't. I'm not sure how he got to Inverclyde, but he wanted a lift. He didn't drive there. So I gave him a lift home, and I ended up with a job. And
Eddie, he probably asked somebody else on the way there.
Maybe so. Yeah. So anyway, so I inherited this job in the sports centre.
And you were at what age then? Sorry, Eddie. What age then would you reckon you were?
I was. Well, I would be. Let me think. About 28, 29 now. 29 maybe.
So you're still relatively new to the sport yourself, really?
No, I hadn't a clue. No idea. Yeah, but I loved it.
Yes.
I loved it, and I sailed through the coaching award thing.
Yes.
So and so I think Bill. That's what Bill saw. That I had a wee bit of authority, and I was a good organizer, and which was right, because I had a management role in my business life.
And your job.
Aye. So anyway, I wasn't in East Kilbride for much longer, because then I moved again, and this is where fate takes a hand again. There's so much fate involved in my story. It's quite bizarre, really. So finished up my work, and in 1980 I got moved. By this time I was doing a bit of running, so I was feeling fitter, and I was starting to feel good about stuff, and I had a coaching award. So I got moved then to a place called North Berwick, which is east of Edinburgh, and they were going to build a nuclear power station there. So instead of having 2 years work everywhere, all of a sudden I had 8 years work. So I knew I was going to have 8 years in the one place, which turned out to be 12 years in the one place. So I went through to East Kilbride, went through to North Berwick, and we're driving around. My wife came through, because she was staying with my mother until we could get a house, and I was in a hotel. So she came through, and we decided, let's go and drive to North Berwick and see what we think of it. And the one thing we needed, of course, we needed a sports centre, because if you've got a sports centre, you've almost certainly got a badminton club. So we thought, that's the number one priority. We need a badminton club. And so we drove along the coast to North Berwick, and no sign of a sports centre at all. So we kind of hung around for a while, and then we drove back to where we were. You see, so now we've decided, well, we're not going to go to North Berwick, because it hasn't got a sports centre. We need to find somewhere else. So then, right, we'll go to the next place. So we're driving along to go to the next place, a different road, and we've seen a sign for North Berwick. So my wife said, well, let's go and have another look at that place, and just let's go and have another look. So we drove in a different road this time, and we drove straight to the bloody sports centre. See? So we just looked at each other and went, I'll do it. So that's us, we sorted. So anyway, so I found us a house and what have you, but I'm still in this hotel. So I thought, right, I'll go back to North Berwick on my own, and I'll go into the sports centre, find out what the crack is, if there's a club and all that. Yeah. So I drove through, and I went into the sports centre, and I walked upstairs to where the gallery is. And I looked over the gallery to where the badminton courts were, and there was two boys playing each other. Nobody else was there, just these two boys. And that was Bruce Dennison,
Yes,
and Kenny Turnbull. And they'd been knocking the hell out of each other for years. So I saw these two boys, you know, and I thought, these two are quite good. These two are good, you know. So if that's what the club's like, hallelujah. So, you know, so anyway, once we go at the house sorting, what have you, we rung up the club, and like Julie Hogg, you know, you had to go for a blooming trial. So we went for a trial. That was fine. And the boys were there, you know, and younger brothers and kids in the school were members of this club, and they were all playing in the school.
So this was North Berwick Badminton Club, is it? Is that North Berwick Badminton?
This was North Berwick Badminton Club, yeah. And it was almost a club that was run by teachers for teachers.
Yeah, right.
So you had the teachers, and then you've got the kids who hate the teachers, and the teachers who think the kids are a pain in the backside. And then, so they don't talk to each other, do they? So the kids don't get in the team because the teachers want to stay in the team. And then we arrive. And really, that's the start of a long story.
Do you remember your first racket, Eddie? Do you remember what your first racket was?
I bought this, went into Workington and bought two rackets. My wife bought a Carlton 3.7X.
Yeah, nice.
And I bought this wooden thing. I have no idea what it was.
Where's your wife from, Eddie?
She's from Glasgow as well.
See, okay.
So she bought this Carlton thing because she knew what she was doing. And I bought this wooden thing and took it home and painted it black for some reason. And I used that for a while until I fell in love with the game, and then I wanted to know, you know, about better rackets and what have you. But that's what I had until I moved to East Kilbride. And then the weirdest thing happened, because when I got my coaching badge, I wrote a letter to ONeill, because ONeill are the boys, you know.
Yeah.
I wrote a letter to ONeill, and for some strange reason, I don't know, they must have thought I was Rudy Hartono or somebody, you know, because they gave me a contract, you know, and they sent me this huge box of kit and 12 rackets. Couldn't believe it, you know, tracksuits. And I was so excited.
What was in the letter? Tell me what the letter consisted of that you sent them.
A letter? Oh, I don't even know what I wrote to. I just wrote and said, you know, my name's Eddie ONeill, and I'm a badminton coach in East Kilbride, and I'm at the John Wright Sports Centre, and I coach there, and I coach these kids, and it would have been like that, you know. And I'm just wondering, you know, whether there's any chance of getting a racket or something, you know. And I've no idea if I got a letter back. I must have done.
Yes.
But I do remember this box arriving, and I had the flu. I was in bed with the flu, and this box arrived, and I mean, it was unbelievably exciting.
Yeah. Oh,
it was up, and there was, and the rackets inside it were BG 8500s.
Yeah.
It was a carbon shaft, and you had a choice of 3 colour frames at the head. It was yellow, green, and red. And I seem to have a million of these green things.
Isn't that amazing?
And so when I went to North Berwick, I had all this ONeill stuff. And the kids probably thought I was a superstar, you know, because I had all this ONeill stuff.
All the bags and all that
stuff. Dressed up like,
So when was the first time you ever played, do you think, Eddie? Also, can I go back to, I've got a few standard questions that I'd like to go through, if that's okay. I know I'm late in the day because we're 20 minutes in. So Eddie ONeill is your full name?
Yeah.
No middle names at all?
No.
And your age?
There's a few, but they're not official.
Oh, that's all right. And your age?
72.
72, nice work. And your home area, south side of Glasgow?
Yeah, place called Camberslang.
Camberslang, oh yeah. And do you have any brothers or sisters, Eddie?
No, just me.
Just you. What age when you very first played? I think you were 27, but you must have played as a kid, right? Must have.
No.
No, 27. Wow, that's a first.
Played football. I played amateur football.
Did you? And
I did a little bit of running at school.
I wish got you.
And that was it. That was it.
Where did you start playing? I've got that. Do you remember your first ever racket? I've got that. What was the name of your first club? So was that North Berwick Badminton Club? Where did you know when you were coaching in East Kilbride? When you were coaching in East Kilbride, did you play in the club as well?
Yeah, Claremont High School club, Claremont High.
Claremont High. Claremont High. And what shuttles did you use? Can I ask?
In East Kilbride, it would be Carlton Plastics, I would think.
Yeah, really. And what about the Lake District?
Eh?
What about the Lake District?
Oh, we played the Feathers in the Lake District. Yeah, I mean, if you go back far enough to those old one-court club teams, a lot of them played with feather shuttles. Used to get from RSL.
You know, that's what RSL 2 is. Do you remember when you said you went to swim? Your wife went swimming and you went to the badminton. Where was that? Where were you?
No, she went to the badminton and I went swimming.
Where was that? I know you said the Lake District, but whereabouts?
That was in Maryport.
Maryport. Where's that?
Maryport is on the coast.
Like Workington way.
Aye. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
What about?
It was the only place we could afford a house.
Yeah, Workington in the Lake District. I know.
We wanted to stay in Keswick, but too expensive. Then we wanted to live in Cockermouth, and that was too expensive. So we ended up in Maryport.
Yeah,
that was our first house.
Too much tourism, isn't there? Do you remember your first ever tournament?
No, we played some stuff in the Lake District, but I really didn't play a lot of tournaments.
You know how you said you loved singles? Were you coaching mostly singles, or were you coaching doubles? Or also the question I had
when I started coaching in North Berwick, it was all singles.
Was it?
All singles, yeah. Kenny and Bruce, and then the others that came along then.
Who were they?
Also,
can you remember any names? No.
Yeah, well, at Kenny and Bruce, and then Kenny's younger brother, Alistair Turnbull, and then a young guy called Fraser Turner. These were all good players.
Yeah.
And then I had the guy called Sammy Johnson who came down from Shetlands to work in close by. He was good, and it just blossomed from there.
It's good.
And then I had a young girl called Kilda Butler. She was. They all ended up county champions, all of them.
They're really brilliant, isn't it?
What
do you think the secret of that was, Eddie? What do you think of the secret of that? Why was that?
I think the secret is quite simple, really. It is that, wherever you go, doesn't matter where you go, there's talent. Yeah. And there was talent. I mean, North Berwick is a retirement fishing village. Full of rich old people in those days, with 4,000 people in it, and yet, I had kids who were playing in the high school amongst themselves, and all they really needed was a catalyst, somebody with a performance mindset.
Is that what it was? Did you have that? It wasn't just the fun of it. It was quite disciplined, was it?
No, I mean, and the first one that came along was Kenny, and Kenny was obsessed with badminton. He was obsessed with getting better and getting better and getting better and better.
Trying to beat Bruce, probably, right?
And Bruce as well. And I was just the right guy. I was perfect for them because, I looked at them and thought, God, these guys are good,
Yes.
And they looked at me and thought,
and you made them feel good. That's the key thing as well.
I thought, it clicked in that I could make them better because they wanted to be better. They didn't want to just hang around in East Lothian. They wanted to come up to Lothian and be respectable and do some stuff up there, and then they wanted to do, they wanted to be better. So they had that that ethos, that work ethic.
Yes.
And all I did was come along and say, well, I've got that as well. I've got exactly what you've got, but you guys are a lot younger and a lot better. So, if you want to get better, I'm more than happy to help you.
How do you think? How often do you think somebody needs to train to get to? How often would they train as well? I suppose. And
Well, I
how
think in
often?
those days they probably played. They probably played most days without really knowing what they were doing.
Did you go up every day then?
No, no, I used to. It's a long time ago,
I know.
and some of it's in my diaries and some of it isn't.
Just
But I
roughly
mean, in the
once a week,
beginning, I
twice
used
a
to.
week, say.
I'll be more than that.
Would
Yeah.
it?
But in the beginning, we used to all play together. So I would go down and play as well. So I would arrange to have an hour with Bruce, or Fraser, or Alistair, or any of them. So I would play them,
Yeah.
And then they would get together, maybe just me and two of them one night, then me and two of them another night, and what have you. And it just absolutely grew big time from there until, I don't know how many I had then. Eventually, just like Andy Cook, the word gets out.
Yeah, it's funny.
And
I think it's
so
mad. I think
it was
were you very physical as a coach, Eddie? Were you quite like performance-wise physical?
Well, I was very, very fit. By this time in North Berwick, I was starting to run a lot,
Right.
because I wanted to do a marathon. And so I was getting myself fitter and fitter and fitter and fitter. So, physically and in terms of my knowledge and the way I looked, I was a good role model for people of that age. They were teenagers. And, so one minute they had these old boring teachers, and the next minute I've got Mr. Yonix who can take them out for a run and humiliate them, And so, they had a role model, which is really, that's all they need, and then once you get going and that partnership develops and you're starting to give them advice and have them train in a better way, in a smarter way, then, you've got an indestructible partnership then. And then really and then the club, a lot of the teachers buggered off and left us in peace. And we were able to develop the club then.
I see.
And, from being second fiddle and third fiddle and fourth fiddle in East Lothian Championship, the team thing, it took about 5 years, but then we ended up, the top team in East Lothian, and
Really?
Won that about 8 years in a row. All with these youngsters, and other people who'd been attracted, because people get attracted to the club.
That's right. The better it gets.
People from other clubs who are going nowhere,
right.
And all of a sudden they phone you up and say, "Can I join North Berwick?" So we made it into a real tour de force. And I got they had a county team at one time in East Lothian, and that went down the pan, and I resurrected that. Yeah. So I got that going again, and so that united all the best players from all the clubs in the county, all who hated each other, because they just played each other in the local league every year, and so that brought them all together, and it just went from strength to strength. It went from nothing to strength to strength.
And were you continuing to play, and were you enjoying competing with these young guys, or did you get to a point where you thought, "I can do this," or did you? What happened? Did you keep on playing? Were you actively? Also, were you beating them? Sorry.
I kept playing for a while, and in the beginning, not Kenny and Bruce. Kenny and Bruce were better than me. So, I never played Kenny because he was a left-hander and he was too quick. So for some reason, we just never played. But I'm sure I must have had some matches against Bruce, and I would have taken a game off him or something, or run close or what have you. But with the younger ones, Kenny's brother Alistair and Fraser Turner, what have you, well, I used to batter them because they were too young to know any better. So like some of your other conversations, the reason they got so motivated was they were fed up getting beat by me. So they decided to set about me, and of course eventually they did.
Which is great, right?
And then you couldn't touch them. Then you really couldn't touch them. And by that time I'd lost interest in playing. I wanted to be a runner then.
Really?
And I wanted to do a marathon, and because I was a much better runner than I was a badminton player. I was a decent badminton player, but I was county standard as a badminton player.
Right.
But I was much better as a runner, much better.
Did you? And you enjoyed it more, just being outside?
Well, I just was, I could see when I looked at badminton, when I was in my 30s and I looked at badminton, there was nothing for me to do. There was nothing for me to achieve other than as a coach.
Yes.
Yes. And so, I was never going to beat anybody as a player by the time I was 32, 33. But, I was really interested to see what I could do as a runner. Really? And I was in a running club that was full of really high performing runners. So all that stuff appealed to me, and I thought, I'm too old for badminton now, but I'm not too old for running. I can set myself targets and try and achieve them. And at the same time, I kept coaching the club and the boys and other people who were coming along, and got the county team up and running. And
was it always big groups, Eddie? Was it always group coaching you did, or was it one-on-one? Did you ever do that?
No, I was never a big fan of group coaching. I always like one-to-one coaching, really. Yeah. Once it's two of them on there, I can't. They're a pain in the bloody neck, to be honest. But I love singles, and I loved working with singles players. Once I moved to Wales and I got involved at a higher level, I did do a lot of work with doubles players and what have you. I tended to gravitate towards singles players because they have the same mentality as me.
Just very quickly, how did you end up in Wales? What happened there?
Well, I got promoted in my job, and they said we wanted to do this thing. They said, but the head office is in Wales, so I said to my wife, I don't really want to go to Wales.
North Berwick's nice, right? North Berwick's quite nice.
Well, North Berwick's beautiful, and we were really happy there, and we had the best times of our lives there. Mm-hmm. But, I couldn't really turn down, a promotion and
money and all that, yeah.
Yeah, so we, so kind of reluctantly, to be honest, we moved to Wales. But this time I'd really lost interest in badminton. So I had no interest in badminton, whatsoever. And as soon as we moved to Wales, I joined the running club because I was in my mid-40s by then, and as an over 40 runner, I was winning things constantly. Right. And I thought, if I can get to 50, I'll keep winning things constantly. I'll be. So I was looking forward to that. Really looking forward to that.
Your distance, were you always a distance runner, Eddie?
Yeah.
What was your distance then? When you were winning these?
My favourite distance was half marathon, but 10K half marathon. But I was better at 10K and half marathon.
Oh yeah.
So that was the plan when I got to. But Annette, my wife, continued her love affair with badminton. So, and my daughter was playing by this time. So when we got to Wales and we settled in Chepstow.
Well, Chepstow.
Chepstow. It's just on the border, the English border, near the Bristol Channel.
Oh, right, okay. South then, right?
So my wife went and joined the badminton club, and my daughter got involved in the Gwent. So we lived in Gwent, right. And she got involved in the Gwent junior squad. And as I say, I had no interest in it at all. But so one Saturday morning, I went with them to this Gwent junior squad. See? So I was sitting there on the bench watching them training under the auspices of this really nice lady, Jean Ridley. And I was watching them and I was thinking, this is not right, really. This is, I don't know what the hell they're doing, but they're not doing anything purposeful.
Oh no.
And that's I know. And so I started to think, And to make matters worse, there was a big guy in Edinburgh, big Robbie Robertson from Pennycook, and he used to run all the junior tournaments. He was a brilliant big guy, and I think he told somebody in Wales that I was moving down, that we were moving down. So they knew about me. my name wasn't. They didn't say who's he. I think because Big Robbie used to play against matches against some of the young junior teams in Wales every year, and I think he said, this guy's coming down, who's a good coach. And so anyway, I was sitting at the Gwent thing watching this, thinking, and of course Jean asked my advice. Fatal, isn't it? That's fatal. So she asked my advice. What do you think? And of course, me and my big mouth, couldn't help it. So I said, well, maybe they should be doing this and maybe they should be doing that. And then about 3 bloody months later, she retired. And then they asked me to take over. Me and Annette. So that was us now in charge of the Gwent junior squad.
So was she a coach as well, Annette?
Yeah.
Oh, really? So you're double acting.
She's absolutely, her gift is with, say, under 13s.
Right.
She's wonderful with
and bringing 13s. People on to enjoy it.
Yeah, and I'm no use at all with under 13s. I can't be bothered with under 13s.
Yeah, it's a different thing, isn't
it? At one stage, I got better. I did get better. I got better, but she's brilliant at it. She's really brilliant. Whereas, I prefer, like Andy Cook. I prefer performance animals.
Yeah. As you say, singles, and people
understand. It's not so. That was us then. We got involved in the Gwent junior squad.
And you're there a long time in Wales?
Yeah, we've been here 20 odd years.
You still there?
Still here.
Wow.
So we ran that Gwent junior squad for about 16 years, and guess what? We turned them from no hopers and Welsh county champions. Yeah, and we had junior national champions coming out of our ears. Once we got to grips with it, and what have you. And then again through my daughter got invited to a Welsh badminton under 14 trial, and we went along, just to have a look. And whether it was at that first session or the second one, we don't know. But they asked me if I would take a court. So they said, "Would you help out?"
Aye.
And I said, "Yeah." So they asked me to take a court. So I took a court with 4 under 14s in it, and I got quite a lot of compliments after that session. And then I got invited back, and then the guy who was a coach, Andy Burke, decided, like Bill Neal, he decided he didn't want to do it anymore. and guess what? That was me.
Can I ask you a question about coaching? If I could ask you a question about coaching, how did you go about? Did you go about changing anything, and how did you go about getting better and learning different things in coaching? Do you think you improved as a coach, or was it a recipe that you kept all the time?
No, I think I wrote down 3 things just to remind myself about, in case you ask me that question. What do you need to be a performance coach, and what do you need in order to keep surviving as a performance coach? Because it's a tough gig, And one of the things which is absolutely essential is you have to have a thirst for knowledge, an absolute thirst. You need to want to drink in knowledge wherever you can get it.
Yeah.
And as my coaching career developed, knowledge became available because the world opened up and the internet came along and what have you. Whereas when I first started, you had one magazine a month and some pictures in it. And you had to try and figure out what was going on just looking at these pictures. But once I was exposed to information, I couldn't get enough of it then. So you have to have.
But you used that, and you watched, and you learned, and you used that in coaching. So conceivably, you became a better coach when you're in Wales than you ever were in Scotland.
I became a better coach. Oh yeah, I mean, in the beginning in North Berwick, Bruce will probably disagree with this, but I'm not sure I really knew what I was doing. I was just going along with the guys, and then I would read a magazine or something like that, and I would come in with an idea and say to Kenny or Bruce, what about this? What about that? Why don't you try this?
And you tried it.
Yeah, but I was motivated and I was interested, and I had as much of an appetite for knowledge as they did.
And enthusiasm.
Right? And enthusiasm. So I think that's the most important thing. The other two things are, I think you've got to have a performance attitude to be a performance coach.
Yes.
Otherwise, you can forget about it, I think, So you've got to have the same mindset.
When you say performance, what do you mean? A drive to be the best kind of thing? When you say
performance,
how do you define it?
I mean, I remember Kenny's younger brother. I said, well, he wanted to go running with me. I said, why do you want to go running? This is the Scottish Schools Championships are coming up, and I want to do well in it. So I said, okay, right. So, and I'm not fit enough. So I said, okay, I'm going to pick up and I'm going to go running, which was hell on earth for him and easy for me. But so there was the goal. He's not going to win the Scottish Schools Championships, but he can be the top East Lothian player.
Yes.
Which eventually he was. He ended up doing well.
Yeah.
So, and Kenny wanted this and wanted that. So I thought, right, that's fine. Bruce was the same. I wanted this, I wanted that. And that's just, that's what I want to hear.
What was the? Tell me what the third thing was. I've just had my 5-minute warning, Eddie.
The third thing for a performance coach is that I think you do have to be decent. You have to be decent at the sport. Yeah. Especially, I mean, you don't have to be a world champion. In fact, I think if you're a world champion, Olympic champion, can be a disadvantage.
You don't have to be better than the person you're playing. You don't have to be better than the person you're coaching.
You have to be decent. I think you have to be decent because if you're working with performance players and you can't hit the shuttle, or you hit the shuttle like a club player, they'll never listen to you.
Yeah, that's right.
And the other thing is, you'll never learn to be a good feeder unless you've got some ability yourself. Good. And I think really I got to the stage where I was a pretty good feeder, much better than I was a player. So I got better as a player the better I became as a coach.
Good coach, good. Okay, let's leave it at that. It was amazing. That was really insightful, Eddie. Thank you. That was. I hope you enjoyed it. It was good. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, good fun.
And
good fun.
So we'll get that posted online, and you'll find it later on. I'm just going to stop the recording now.